Coming off a week break, the UConn Huskies struggled out of the gate on Saturday against Manhattan. Sloppy turnovers, missed jumpers. Dan Hurley's squad could not pull away from the Jaspers. But eventually, talent won out, or so Coach Hurley thought, as UConn won 61-46.
Happy with we won, right? Yeah, I guess I'm happy with the fact that we did win. Doesn't feel great.
Tonight, UConn has their final home non-conference game as they welcome the Drexel Dragons to the Excel Center. We get you set for all the action, plus looking ahead to American Conference play on the UConn men's pregame show, and it starts right now. The UConn Huskies looking to improve to 9-3 as they host the Drexel Dragons. It's the first time ever meeting between the two programs, and we are taking you right up to tip-off here on SNY. Hey, everybody, we welcome you to the UConn men's basketball pregame show. I'm Justine Ward alongside Tariq Turner. UConn taking the court at the top of the hour and looking for a better all-around performance than we saw this past weekend. Saturday night, UConn hosted Manhattan at Gamble Pavilion, and after the first 15 minutes, the game was still tied at 15. UConn would go on a 10-0 run to end the first half and not look back from there. The Huskies went on to win 61-46, but the biggest story coming out of the game was the play of their senior point guard. This look at Jalen Adams' night, presented by Town Fair Tire. Adams with only 2 points on 1 of 4 shooting from the field, plus 4 turnovers. It was his lowest point total in over 2.5 years, and the first time in the last 2 seasons that he took under 10 shots. After the game, head coach Dan Hurley spoke about Jalen being out of his comfort zone on Saturday night.
For whatever reason, he just, he didn't have a lot of pop today. He wasn't, dialed in, locked in, and ready to go at the level that a player his caliber, who, he doesn't have, this isn't a sophomore. He's got a limited number of opportunities as a senior to play at the highest possible level that he could play at. And, you just want to see, I think that was kind of the message to the team in the locker room was, hey, we're going all in to try to have the best possible year for this senior class so you can experience something and experience something really, really positive on your way out the door. So just overall, I don't want to pin that all on Jalen. It was Eric Cobb, it was Jalen. Terran's first half wasn't very good. Kasum was the only guy I was happy with as far as the seniors today that looked like he was playing with the type of urgency that you need to play with when you only have X amount of games left in your college basketball career. So every game is precious.
Tariq, some interesting comments there from the coach about his seniors needing to be all in. How important is it for Jalen to start on the right foot tonight?
Well, it's crucial. I mean, he's their best player, and he's one of the best players in the conference, and he is their alpha dog. So, they follow his lead, and certainly, look, you're going to have bad games. You're not going to light it up every game, but the effort, the body language, he looked lethargic. He did pick up a couple early fouls in the first half, which I thought kind of stalled his momentum, but he just wasn't into the game. He didn't impact the game at all in a positive note, and I thought he was lazy with the ball. He didn't look like he was engaged with his teammates, and he just didn't look like he was either feeling well or he wanted to be there. So I think it's a lesson learned. He has to be into the game, and he's talked about this earlier in the season about getting off to better starts in the first half, even versus Syracuse and Iowa. Those games he got going in the second half, but the first half he kind of struggled to get himself going. So I think that's the main thing he needs to change is getting himself going earlier in the game so he can carry through 40 minutes.
You mentioned that early foul trouble. Coach Hurley also talked about Jalen needing to display some mental toughness. Why is that pivotal for where he's at in his college career?
Well, he's the leader. I mean, the ball is in his hands the majority of the time, particularly in shot clock and pick and roll situations when they need a big basket. He's the one that they have to trust to make the decisions. He's had that success all his career, and mental toughness means making harder cuts, being vocal, not being loose with the ball, making sharp passes. Just the little things that he did not do versus Manhattan. He had 4 turnovers in the last 2 games apiece, and a lot of those turnovers are unforced. So those are the things he has to control better to be that leader.
All right, Tariq, well, let's bring in our own Maria Marino into the conversation. She joins us live now from Hartford. And Maria, you were at shoot-around this morning and you spoke with Jalen. What is his mindset heading into tonight?
For tonight, Jalen is looking to have a big bounce back, obviously, but more mentally than physically. He said that he just wants to make good decisions and be a better example for his teammates. He's not even really concerned about scoring. He said he was disappointed in his performance Saturday, but also more for his teammates and because he felt like he let them down. Now, coaching staff met with Jalen after the game and made it very clear that he just has to be sharper, especially if he wants to have a future in basketball. The mistakes that he made aren't going to fly here at UConn against tougher opponents, and they're certainly not going to fly beyond that.
Well, UConn, Maria, is beginning their final week of non-conference play with a matchup with the defending champs on the horizon this weekend. Is the team stressing cleaning things up tonight?
100%. I think the big key and theme with UConn all season has been that they've beaten the teams that they're supposed to beat, but they haven't really looked as crisp and clean as they should, and we know that they'll get exposed against those tougher opponents. I think this team is very well aware that they have Villanova coming up around the corner, so the big challenge is going to be not overlooking Drexel. Turnovers have been an issue all season. Coach Hurley has been preaching about it. They need to take better care of the basketball. I would look for them to do that tonight.
All right, Maria, some things to look for. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Tariq, as you heard from Maria, they're looking to play clean, crisp basketball. We know one guy who can pick up the slack when Jalen struggles is Tariq Gilbert. How can Gilbert shoulder the lead as one of the lead guards on this team?
Well, he brings a lot to the table in terms of being the primary ball handler and being that catalyst with his speed. He's the guy that gets them out to run on the fast break, very good distributor. And Danny Hurley is letting him play through his mistakes. He's an offensive-minded scoring point guard. But what he does is he takes pressure off of Adams and also Vital and Smith when he's in the game because of his speed, his ability to change gears and get into the open court. Very good at finishing at the rim. And when he's in attack mode, he's very, very efficient, makes the game easier for his teammates. And then defensively, he's very good as a ball pressure guard, changing the tempo, making the other teams pick up their pace from the full court.
All right, well, we are just getting going tonight. One of the keys to Saturday's victory was the play of Christian Vital. His outstanding defense generated 7 steals, but is that the part of his game that has impressed Tariq the most? We'll talk about that. And there is a look at Jalen Adams once again. He's looking to bounce back after his worst game of the season. The senior point guard hoping to build on his season average of 17 points per game. We'll have much more after this break. Stay with us, everybody.
Vital protecting and then getting it to gently roll over the iron and in. Vital from way downtown. Nothing but nylon for Christian Vital. Big time move by Christian Vital. Quick hands here. Another steal. Vital gliding in. The one hand stopper. Vital all the way. Christian Vital, the floater. Rattles around and drops in. Christian Vital.
Christian Vital made some history on Saturday. These stats presented by Subaru, the junior with the 3rd most steals in a game for the Huskies in the last 27 years. Vital behind Jerome Dyson's 9 steals in 2008 and Richard Hamilton with 8 back in 97. Now, Tariq, Vital's stat line against Manhattan stands out. He led the team in scoring with 13 points and a team-high 8 boards. But what attribute of Vital's game stands out to you?
Well, you know, he's really an all-purpose guard. He does a little bit of everything well. Obviously, he's a scorer. He's a playmaker. He's a big guard at 6'3", strong upper body. But the part of his game that really stands out to me is what you just said, rebounding the basketball. He leads his team in rebounds, obviously coming off a season high or career high 8 boards versus Manhattan. And I like the fact that he's not afraid to crash the glass. When he gets rebounds on the defensive end, he's a guy that can push the tempo himself and let the wings fill the lane. And he's more than capable of making plays in the open court. So I look look at him as a guy that Danny Hurley can trust to play on or off the ball. He's a guy that is a leader. He's the most vocal guy on this team. And he's a guy that really holds himself accountable to play well every night. And I think he does that pretty much from an effort standpoint every game. Even if he's not shooting the ball well, you know he's going to play hard, you know he's going to guard, and you know he's going to crash the glass.
Well, as we saw in that montage, he's aggressive in the paint, too. He gets some really good looks there. How do you see him taking a step forward, though?
Well, he has to just keep being consistent. I mean, there's going to be games when he doesn't shoot the ball well, but I can see him also being a defensive lockdown guy on the opposing team's best player in terms of perimeter guys. He's probably one of their best all-in-the-ball defenders, along with Gilbert, but he's a little bigger, a little longer, so he's more versatile as a defender than Gilbert is because Gilbert's smaller. So I think he's a guy that can continue to assert himself as one of the better two-way players in the league because he can play both sides of the court.
Well, Vital looking to build on his last performance against Manhattan, 13 points, 8 rebounds. And we still have more to do. Was Vital the star of the defense on Saturday? It was a great team effort to get it done. We examine the strides UConn has made on the defensive side of the ball next. There is Sydney Wilson, the redshirt freshman, added 6 points on Saturdays. He continues to be integrated into the offense. Bench play will be a big factor for UConn as they move into conference play. With more on tonight's game, including how Wilson can be a factor. Here are the guys on the call, Gary Apple and Tim Welsh.
Justine, thanks so much. And we spent a lot of time, Tim, earlier today with Danny Hurley, and he certainly needs to see a better effort tonight out of Jalen Adams. Just 1 of 4 from the field. And it's one thing to miss shots and to put up a lot of shots, but I'm not sure he loved the effort from Jalen Adams that he saw on Saturday. How does that change tonight?
Well, I'm sure he did love the effort. There's no doubt about it, Gary, and he knows that he can judge it. You know, you can go 1 for 10, you can have a bad shooting night, but you can't have a better effort night. And you can't coach effort when you're a senior, you're a fourth-year player. Guy who's supposed to be the leader, the guy that's supposed to work the hardest, can't take a night off. You only have 35 nights a year or so. So he's going to have to learn to get going right out of the gate, no matter who the opponent is.
What about the redshirt freshman, Sydney Wilson? I think we saw some real flashes out of him on Saturday. That putback dunk, little mid-range jump shot. He seems to be a guy with a lot of tools. And so how does that begin to manifest itself as they move forward?
Well, they have to get him into the mix. You know, he's not the shooter that Pauly is from the perimeter, but he gives them other things. He's a slasher. He can get to the rim. He's very good in transition. He can present some problems for the defense because of his quickness and athleticism. He's got to defend better. He sometimes gets mismatched because of his size. Doesn't have a lot of width out there on the floor, but certainly you've seen the progression in a month already. He's had a lot of time off. He's only going to get better.
And Dan Hurley said he's going to get him playing time, a lot more playing time as the season now progresses. We're going to see you, Tim and I, coming up just a few minutes, top of the hour. UConn in action against Drexel. Justine and Tariq, back to you in New York.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Back to the last game where UConn forced 23 turnovers and held Manhattan to 34% from the field. Tariq, what specifically were you most impressed with about UConn's defense in that last game?
Well, defensively, it started with excellent ball pressure on the perimeter. It started with Gilbert, who did a great job of hounding Mack, the opposing point guard from Manhattan, and really picking him up, not allowing him to get in his offense. They did a good job, all the guards did on the wings, getting in the passing lanes, a lot of deflections. This is Danny Hurley's style of basketball. They want to be tough-minded, gritty defensively, getting up inside the passing lane and just really pressuring the basketball as much as you can without fouling. That's why they were able to hold Manhattan to 15 points in the first half and then really stifle them the whole game with that defensive pressure.
Tariq, they also had 9 blocks in that game. Has the amount of blocks they've had inside surprised you?
No, it hasn't. It's actually an encouraging sign because this is a team that has multiple shot blockers. The last game, it was Yaqua and Wilson, which really showed their ability to be athletes and just pin the ball on the glass without fouling. Big-time rim protection is a big part of UConn defense because it allows their guards to pressure and have that defensive anchor in the back. So you have Yaqua, you have Wilson, and then you have Cobb and Carlton, who are all capable, along with Pauly. So I think you really have 4 or 5 guys that are capable of protecting the rim. That's a big part of UConn's defense as they go into the league.
And we know how much they like to get out in transition, and that starts with defense, right?
No question about it, and they want to run.
Still to come, this is the final week of non-conference play for UConn. We look ahead to AAC play and where the Huskies look to fit into the conference hierarchy. Plus, Dan Hurley has certainly impressed the other basketball coach on campus, Gino Auriemma. We will hear from the Hall of Famer on the new guy in town next. Welcome back, and while tonight is the final men's game on SNY, our coverage of the UConn women's team will be full steam ahead beginning in January. On the 9th, we will have the premiere of the Gino Auriemma Show, and in episode 1, I sat down with the Hall of Famer, and he gave us great insight into how he is viewed, the beginning of the Dan Hurley era.
It's a different look. It's a different mindset. It's an aggressiveness and an attitude that's reflective of who he is. People sometimes forget, part of coaching, as they say, is, well, the team is going to take on the coach's personality. And sometimes that's true, sometimes it's not. But in this case, I think it's true. You know, the players on the team have embraced it, you know, Danny's personality. And they're reacting and they're responding to what he's teaching. Mm-hmm. And you can see it. Is it reflective in the score all the time? No. But like, let's take the Florida State game. They lost the Florida State game. They competed so hard.
It was a close game.
They competed so hard. But at some point you have to look around and go, you know what? We just weren't good enough today. But it's not like we didn't play hard enough. We didn't execute, you know, we didn't get after it, you know. We took a step back, you know. They did everything physically that you can do. They just weren't good enough. They're not ready for that game yet. But I think for a new coach, that's step one. And he's accomplished that in a hurry.
As you heard from Gino, you get the sense that the players are buying in Tariq. But what area does UConn need the most improvement to continue forward in the right direction?
Well, first off, Gino's a Hall of Famer, so no one knows how hard it is to install a culture and build a culture than Gino. So, you know, his words mean a lot to not only Danny Hurley, but to those players to know that they are showing signs of buying in to what Danny's doing. But in terms of what they need to improve on, the biggest concern to me, and in talking to Danny Hurley, is no question it's the turnovers. They've had an issue with that since day one. They're averaging close to 15 turnovers a game. It's not just the turnovers per se. It's the fact that a lot of them are unforced. A lot of them are just a result of not being sharp with the ball. 2-on-1 situations like that in the open court, you got to convert those. These players know how to operate. They know how to score. But sometimes the decision-making, the spacing is not there. The attention to detail is not there. And that will get you beat. When they start conference play, or actually when they start next week versus Villanova, they cannot waste any more games where they have 15, 16 turnovers and just don't take care of the basketball. And talking to Danny Hurley, that's his biggest concern. They've drilled this constantly in practice, the fundamentals, passing, spacing, knowing where your man is, knowing where to get the right angle to make a pass, taking care of the basketball in the open court, making good decisions. Those are the key things that they have to improve on.
Well, Tariq, their three-point shooting has been trending downward as of late. What's your concern level there?
Not so much. I mean, this is a streaky team so far, but they have the personnel that allows them to stretch the floor. They're not going to light it up every game. Versus Syracuse, they shot the ball very well. Versus the zone at 2-3. But they have more than capable shooting. Vital, Adams, you know, Gilbert are all capable shooters that should shoot in the high 30%, low 40% from three. Polly is another guy that can stretch the floor. And then Terrence Smith. I think they have more than enough talent from the perimeter where they can knock down shots. But you have to find multiple ways to win, like they did versus Manhattan. They didn't shoot the three well, but they won with their defense. And once they get into the season with the conference play, they're going to have to knock down some threes.
Well, as UConn continues to get ready for conference play, let's shine a light on the AAC preseason coaches poll. UCF was picked by 6 of the 12 coaches to finish in first, followed by Cincy and Houston. The Huskies were picked to finish 5th. They did not receive a first-place vote. So, Tariq, do you agree with UCF being at the top there? Is there another team on your radar?
I don't. I think UCF is talented. Taco Fall and Aubrey Dawkins are certainly 2 of the top players in the conference, but I think Houston is the story of the conference so far. They're 10-0 for a reason. They're for real. It's not a fluke. They're beating high-quality teams. They just beat LSU. They beat St. Louis soundly. And they have a very, very well-respected coach in Kelvin Sampson. And guard play, Armani Brooks, one of the best, most unknown players in the country, but he gets it done. And then Corey Davis, that backcourt is as good as you'll get in the conference. And I think they're going to be a team that's going to stay in the top 25 throughout the country, throughout the season.
How about UConn? They were predicted to finish 5th. Do you think the first 6 weeks of the season has changed the conversation about the Huskies?
After my report card right now is yes. I think they've shown enough flashes where they can be a top 3 team in the conference. Now, granted, the league is down a little bit, which is an opportunity for the Huskies to make some noise and maybe steal a few. I could certainly see them, because of their guard play, if Jalen Adams gets back on track, which I expect, along with the way Gilbert is playing. Gilbert's in the lineup now, and I think that backcourt is as good as you'll see in this conference. I certainly could see them going in the top 3.
All right, so Huskies could be moving up if they start things out strong. We're just minutes away from tip-off between UConn and the Drexel Dragons in downtown Hartford. Can the Huskies improve to 9-3 on the season? Some final thoughts after this break. Welcome back. There's Tariq Gilbert getting ready for tonight's game against Drexel. The redshirt sophomore has already played in more games this season than he did in his first 2 injury-shortened seasons combined, while averaging over 12 points per game. Coach Hurley is sticking with the same starting lineup as he has used all season, so let's take a look at the starting 5 here. It's Jalen Adams and Tariq Gilbert in the backcourt, along with Christian Vitale, Josh Carlton, and Tyler Pauley round everything out. And that will do it for us right now, but don't worry, Tariq and I will be back here at halftime. Enjoy the UConn Huskies and Drexel Dragons facing off at the Excel Center. That's all coming up right here on SNY. Gary Apple and Coach Tim Welsh have the call from Hartford, Connecticut.